And hello again. It's Bob Dennis and Stacey Ravid, both of us doctors. Opinions vary, but the doctor part's real. And we want to talk today about whatever topic that Stacey has collected questions on. So I'll just send it over to Stacey.
Hello, everybody, and good morning. We are talking about the Micro-Pulse, the C5 today. And this is the big one, and it's got a lot of coils. So there have been some questions about the C5, and we are going to get straight to it. Thank you, Dr. Dennis, for your time. Very first question, and it's a good one. I own the C5 myself, and I've used it, and this is a reoccurring question. Why so many coils, and how to navigate them and place them all at one time?
Okay, well, so this is one of those things, right? The more you want any kind of device to be able to do, the more complicated it is. It's like the shopsmith problem. Oh, this one thing does 20 different things, but then it's got to have all the attachments for 20 different things, right? That's the problem. So the C5 was my answer to people's big requests about 2017 or so. 2016, 2017, I started working on it, and people were like, well, how many devices do I have to buy to get to do? The typical person was like 2 or 3 or maybe 4 different areas that they were concerned about. Like, you know, my foot always hurts. I've got this like micro stress fracture in my knee, but also like my shoulder, and I've got a bad back. How do I move the thing around for that? Right. And so the answer is, you know, you can make a device that has 4 outputs, right? That's what the C5 is, but it's kind of special in the sense that all the outputs are synchronized. So instead of using them in 4 different places, you can use them, you can stack them up. That's what you need the coil tester for, a little hexagonal coil tester that looks surprisingly like that. You can stack them up so that you can either distribute the coils around, or you can make them into a little pad, you know, or you can stack them up to get more intensity. So it gives you that flexibility. The downside is you end up with a device with a big tangle of coils like that, right? But the upside is it gives you a lot of, you know, you just have to keep it untangled as well as you can, but you get a lot of flexibility. You can use it in a lot of different locations.
Okay, quick question. Are you saying that you can stack more than 2 coils at one time?
You certainly can. You can stack. So like, you know, you just start with a coil pair, right? What you do is you put all your coil pairs, each pair of coils that's on the same connector.
Yes.
Put them bumpy side to bumpy side, right? And then you then you've got an instantaneous magnet that'll be north, south, north. Those, you know, you should be able to prove to yourself using the hexagonal coil tester that when you put the coils together, put this right in between them and it'll be even brighter. Then you can stack the next pair of coils that are bumps to bumps. And when you stack them on both sides of this, if it gets dimmer, then you got to flip one of them around, flip one of the pairs around, and it'll get brighter. Now you're adding up the magnetic fields, and then you do that again with another pair of coils. So you can have 2, 3, or 4 pairs of coils. And then what you end up with is like, it's like a fountain shooting this magnetic field through the axis of the coils. And then you can just tape them together if you want. And people use that all the time. They sort of like an electromagnetic acupuncture. And it gives you really good, you know, deep depth of magnetic, you know, reach into the tissues.
Okay, one tip for people, what I do is I have the little twisty ties. And so I separate the coils and the wires, and then I use a twisty tie. I'll use 2 of them for a set, and that keeps them separated and they don't get tangled.
Yeah, there's different strategies there. If you know how to make rope, you know, like you can take different fibers, and if you twist them, both of them clockwise, then you can wrap them counterclockwise. And so you can actually make like a rope of the wires that will just naturally tend to want to stay together. It's not like you're weaving them. It's not like you're braiding them or anything.
Yeah.
You actually can get them to stay together that way. That's
Okay.
one of the things I do. You don't just twist them together into a helix. You actually twist two helices separately of the wire, and then they naturally will try to unwind and they'll form their own helix that's stable.
Okay.
That's how
Okay.
rope works. Believe it or not, that's like 4,000-year-old rope technology. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that information, Dr. Dennis. Next question is actually from the Flux Forum, because a couple other people had this question. Terrific question. What strategies have individuals been using while using the C5 for sleep? How do you arrange the coils on the body for sleep in such a way that you're not pulling out the wires?
What I do is I actually plug it into a wall, or actually I'll use a battery power pack that I know works with it, and I just set it right on my bed, so it's not, the unit's not far from me. And then the wires, I'll either arrange them into like a taped pad, like we can make that for you, or I'll put them into specific locations on my head. And I actually, what I do is I get one of those sort of cheap, it's like a spandex headband you can get. So like the 1980s kind of, aerobics instructor kind of thing. And you can actually, you can just put the coils there, or you can cut them open, and so that you can slide coils in. And then you end up with this like $3 or $4 headband where you can put things in. And this week I was having trouble because I had been doing a lot of work with one of my arms and elbows and my knee. And so I just got, like you had there, just you can buy these expandable sort of nylon spandex things that are like knee braces. They're like they call them supports, like a knee support or an ankle support. They're just tight. There's like a compression garment. It's like a tight sock. You can buy those really cheap. They're usually about $5 or $6 from Amazon. You slide them on, then you slide the coils in there.
Yeah.
So like if I want to use the device for sleep, if you're going to use it on your head, you need to take into account the fact that it needs to be a pulse pattern that's agreeable with you for sleep. People vary. So what works well for me is alpha wave, which is not common for people to sleep, but alpha wave is sort of like a calm awareness. But some people feel very strongly, no, it's delta. Other people feel very strongly, no, it's theta, but I think alpha wave actually works really well for me personally. But then that also works well for these orthopedic injuries. So I'll have something just on the side of my head, or at the base of my skull, and different people respond different ways because you have different inflammation in your skull, different sorts of issues that may be making it difficult for you to sleep. Some people have trouble sleeping because they have pain. Right. So one person that I know, actually it's two different people. They can't sleep because they have back pain. So if they use it on their lower back for back pain, both of them just fall asleep because they're chronically tired. Right. So it's kind of like, what's the cause of your sleep problem? Is it that you're constantly in pain, or is it that you have some kind of overactive excitation in your neurons, or is it that you maybe have cranial inflammation? So you're going to need different coil placements, and the only way to tell if you don't already know the answer to that is by trying it in different places. And for me, knocks me out like a light. I mean, if I put it on alpha and I use it on where my pain is, my orthopedic pain, plus like the back of my head, boom, pain goes away. It entrains my brain waves to that. And yeah, but people ask about sleep all the time. I can tell you, I discovered that sleep is a huge problem across the country because people aren't getting enough.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to add to that, what I've done with my Micro-Pulse when I've slept with it is I'll put the coils on the place on my body and I'll tape it. And then I always take an ace bandage and I cover the coils, the wire, and the box itself. Well, the smaller one, the M1, I'll cover it with an ace bandage. The bigger one, I'll leave this out.
It's good if you leave that one out because it generates enough heat that you want air to circulate around it.
Yeah. And
a table or
so
something.
the ace bandage will keep it secure so that I don't pull out the wires. And that's what's worked for me. So talking about the wires and on the same topic of sleeping with the C5, the C5 does not run by battery. You have to plug it in. Is it okay to plug it into a good quality extension cord and then plugging it into the wall outlet, or does it have to go straight into an outlet?
It does not have to go straight into an outlet. You can buy like anything that gets you to a USB charger port. You can plug it into any USB charger port. Okay. It's got to be 5 volts, because more than 5 volts will, more than about 6 volts, but really it should be USB 5 volt standard. That's what the device runs on. And so you want to plug it into that. You can also plug, especially all the ones that we've, I've been doing constant upgrades to these things. So all the ones that we send out now work with pretty much all of the battery power ports like this.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a battery power port. And, you can plug a USB type A plug into that, like a regular USB type A plug like this.
Mm-hmm.
Plugs in there, right? And because I make all of these by hand, I make all of the C5s by hand. What you can do is if you really want a C5, you can contact us, and for a little bit more money, I can make you one of these, this is, we call it a C5 Plus. We don't advertise it. This is pretty much for people who know this is like the big secret, right? I'm trying to figure out if we're going to actually offer this on the internet, but you can contact us directly, and it has a USB type A plug on it. And that can actually plug into a USB type A extension cord. You can get them like 6 feet or 2 meters really. And that can go right into your charger port, or you can plug it straight into like a battery port like this. And what's cool about this is this will run all night long with,
Wow.
without needing to be recharged. It's got enough. It's a big enough battery pack that it will run probably for a day and a half without needing to be recharged. And I made this, you'll notice, with a 90-degree angle so that you can put it into a fanny pack or a pocket or something like that. And you don't have to wind up a big cord or anything like that. But you can use any of like these really large battery packs, but then they have really smaller ones that are like 3 or 4 credit cards stacked up really thin, or really, really big ones. You can plug directly into them with this, or you can plug that extension cord and then plug it into a USB charger port. It's a much better improvement, I think, based on all of the feedback that I've gotten over the last 3 years or so for the C5. And I did internal enhancements too. So this is my test model. I keep testing it to make sure it's right. But if this is what you want, you can contact us and talk to, probably my wife actually, and she'll tell you how to get one, and I'll build one for you.
That is super cool. Can you take an existing C5 and
Yes.
turn it into that?
I just did. Yeah. If you want an upgrade, you contact us at support@micro-pulse.com. Say, hey, I'd like to get an upgrade on the C5, and they'll say, well, Bob's pretty busy lately. It might take a week. And then you work out when you want to do that, and we just work it out. And
That's great. I'm going to do that. So I would send my unit in and you can upgrade it, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to do that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will like this. So I'm trying to, it takes a while because I got to do some internal hardware changes to make sure that it works with, all. This took me like a year to figure this out because they're not standardized, to make sure that our device, which is super low power, actually works with all of these batteries. Mm-hmm. Because it's so efficient. This battery charger power port actually thinks that the device is turned off, so it turns itself off. But there's a lot of, if you send it to me, you'll get a bunch of upgrades. One of them is like, you can turn the screen off. So once the screen's running, does yours do that, or is yours one of the earlier models? So like so what you can do here is, I'll show you, right? So this thing is turned on. It's should be turned on. Let's see here. Oh yeah. Let's see. Oh, this one's yeah, I'm still working on it. So this one, yeah, what you can do with it is when it's running, yeah, this one's not quite finished yet. When it's running, you can oops, there we go. Got to get this going. But when it's running, you can, this was one of my earlier test models. So this is what happens. This is why I don't just sell these things. The way that this works is that you can, once it's running, you can press the red button and it just turns the screen off, but everything keeps running. So a lot of people were telling me, oh, it's too bright at night. And, I got to cover it with a piece of tape. So when you get it back, it will be able to have the screen off option, which means while it's running, you just press the red button, turns the screen off. You can also use it with USB power. Like I was saying, it also has these internal changes that make it work with virtually every one of the power packs that you can buy now. So it's got all of those options in the upgrade. So that's worth contacting us. And I try to do that like at our cost. So it takes me a while to do each one, but I'm secretly hoping I don't get a huge flood of requests, but I'm happy to do it for people because we really want to take care of the people who buy our stuff. Right. And if we can make it better, we will make it better.
That is super cool. I know there's a lot of people that are going to be excited about that upgrade. Okay, so on the website for the Micro-Pulse, there is some information about the C5. So one of the questions comes from that information in the PowerPoint provided on the Micro-Pulse site. It says some cables are better than others. Some have unreliable connections, while others seem to provide a good, reliable connection. How do you know the difference between good and bad cable?
Well, see, that's the problem that we're having is that that the quality of stuff is very variable and it changes. Even if you buy it from the same company, it will change. Like the next year, it'll be like batteries are that way. You get these batteries that, I'll spend like 18 months evaluating every possible kind of battery. And then the manufacturer just changes because they're all always trying to save money and increase their margin. So what we do is you can contact us and we'll tell you right at the moment, we think that these guys are making good ones. And here's what we order right now. So if you want to buy something, just contact us at support@micro-pulse.com and we'll tell you what we think is the good stuff versus the junk that you want to avoid, right? But the really nice thing about this, we call it the USB tail, right, is that Amazon Basics, if you buy stuff from Amazon for I think $9, they make this 2-meter long extension cord that just goes type A to type A. So all it does is makes this wire effectively 6.5 feet longer. And it's really good quality. And so the connection, like as soon as you plug it in, you're like, oh yeah, that's like 100 times better than the power connection we have now. So just with that, that single improvement, I think is worth doing. But it's because Amazon consistently makes these high quality, but not very expensive cables that I feel really good about that upgrade. Right.
Okay. Good answer. Exactly what is intensity and what levels are best, intensity levels are best for which complaints?
Well, that's a very complicated question. So the best thing to do for a specific thing would be to get on the forum and ask, what should I use for this or that specific complaint? But generally speaking, question one was, what is intensity? Intensity is when I put out the magnetic pulse, how big is that magnetic pulse? It's like, how many Gauss? It's actually how big is the slope? How steep is the slope? But you can think of it as like how many Gauss is being put out, and more intensity equals more Gauss. And it's not linear relationship because of the way the microcontroller and everything works. But at full intensity, like if you turn the intensity up to about to 15 or so on the M1 or the C5, the maximum Gauss is it's going to be like 2 megagauss per second. So you divide that by 10,000, you end up with 200 Gauss peak. So it's kind of like it's kind of like asking, why is the sky blue? I can actually tell you why the sky is blue.
I think you have in a previous
I think I
video.
have. But the thing is that it's really long and complicated, and you get about a third of the way through the explanation. You're like, why did I ask this question? Intensity has a lot of detailed technical description to it, but it's just more.
Layman's terms in one
That's right.
sentence.
It's like it's sort of like the volume. It's like the volume knob on a stereo. What's really happening? You don't care. It just makes the music louder. It's exactly like that. So it makes the magnetic field that you're getting more intense. Why do you want to increase the intensity? Why do you want to increase it? Because you might have to go to deeper tissues, or you might be personally less sensitive. Why do you want to decrease the intensity? Why not just make it the most, always the most? Well, you don't drive your car to the grocery store at 120 miles an hour. Sometimes different speeds are necessary. Some applications, you need a lot less intensity, like horses. Horses are really sensitive to this. So a lot of the low end intensity is there specifically for equine applications. There's also people who are very sensitive to electromagnetic fields, and they respond extremely well to an intensity of 1 or 2, right? And you can't, but the thing is that too much intensity, too much is too much. And a lot of people who contact me, they say, this doesn't really work. The first question I ask is, what intensity are you using? And almost 100% of the time they say, oh, I've got it turned up all the way. Well, that's too much. And then I have to go through this whole thing trying to explain to people, turn the intensity down and try it again. And I would say 90% of the time when people turn the intensity down, it actually works better. There's a sweet spot in there. So the general rule of thumb is you start with an intensity right in the middle. And that works for most people, like on a C5 or an M1, start around 9. So you can adjust it up or down.
Okay, good answer. And that was well explained, Dr. Dennis. Thank you. And last question, what is the Matrix Special Wellness Network?
Matrix Special Wellness Network. There's a doctor, a chiropractor in Canada who has an entire system of health and wellness that's based upon a lot of different things like, I don't understand it very well. But he's requested that we make devices do a certain specific thing that he uses for like muscle testing. They'll test the strength of your muscle and then do something. Is it stronger or weaker? And that informs you how to go forward with the treatment. Well, part of that is part of his treatment that he uses is our device that's just puts out a specific 5 pulses per second that's consistent and long enough for him to do that repeatedly. So really all it is 5 pulses per second. And you can set that on any M1 or any C5. That's all it is it's exactly the same code. Actually, I cut and pasted that piece of code from our 5 pulses per second standard into their device. The device that I programmed for them. That's all it is.
Wow. Okay. So those are all the questions that we have today. I do want to let people know that when I did my research for my dissertation, there were several individuals that use the C5 for animals. They've also used them obviously for individuals, but one story that I remember the most is how they used a C5 on a horse that was quite sick, and it helped the horse. Another individual used it for their dog who was dying and had musculoskeletal issues and couldn't climb up steps, and they had scheduled a date to put the dog down and take it to the vet. And they used the C5 on their dog. And after 9 days of using the C5, the dog was going up and down the steps, and the dog lived for a long time. So I do know other individuals who have used it for animals, and they've had great success. Thank you, Dr. Dennis, for all your information today. And if you all have any questions, there is the Flux forum, and then there's also the Micro-Pulse website. We thank you for your time, and everyone be well.
Okay, thank you very much. Talk to you later.